Good morning. Welcome to the biochemical basis of cancer treatment. All of you will be knowing about the cancer treatment in future when you enter the Department of Medicine and Surgery and Gynecology. But now it is the biochemical basis of cancer. Whatever you do, you should know the basis for that. And that basis is through the biochemistry. So if you know the biochemical basis for any treatment regarding cancer, you'll be really appreciating it and you'll be doing it with a real commitment. Just without basis, if you select half a dozen drugs and start doing the practice, that will not be justifiable, isn't it? So when you become an oncologist in future, most of the people are very much preferring the oncology nowadays. So they are selectively going for the subject of oncology, and even though it's an end stage scenario and nothing much can be done for most of the cancers, you will be more satisfied if you see a patient discharged with life, isn't it? So please try to get all these points into your brain so that in future if you become an oncologist, if you get a chance to become an oncologist, you will be appreciating all these things. So biochemical basis of cancer treatment, we should try to know. And before that, we should be able to identify that the cancer is the second most common cause of death. And we know what are the modifiable risk factors. So if we avoid such and such things, we can live without cancer, isn't it? So the first one is tobacco. So 30% of all cancer deaths are due to tobacco. So 15 cancers are linked to this tobacco, and by 18th year, the cancers will be start manifesting if the fellow is taking habituated to tobacco right from the age of 10th year. So counseling will definitely decrease this, and we are seeing all the advertisements and all. In spite of that, the people will be going for tobacco use, isn't it? So more intensive counseling should be done, and nicotine should be replaced by patches, gums, lozenges, and medicines like bupropion. So May 25th is the International Day for anti-smoking. So bupropion or varenicline. Local laws by the government should be very much strict. If the government is strict and local laws are strict, something can be done definitely. So nutritional and physical activity is another one. We should avoid tobacco. We should be physically active, and we should try to maintain healthy weight. We should not be overweight. We should consume diet containing fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, grains with husk. So we should lower the consumption of saturated trans fatty acids, which are very rich in all the biscuits, chocolates, all the things contain trans fatty acids, because trans fatty acids will not go easily into putrefaction. So we should limit alcohols. Alcohol consumption will unnecessarily drive us into cancer liver. So we should avoid excess sun exposure. And the last thing is radiation from radiographic studies. Nowadays it's becoming a fashion. For any small thing, an X-ray. For any small thing, a CT scan. For any small thing, MRI scan. If you are really rich, we will not stop until the doctor prescribes MRI scan. So we should choose wisely. We should not unnecessarily run after the nightmare of diagnostic CTs and MRI scans. These are all suicidal attempts, isn't it? So the most common cancer cases are prostate cancer is number 1 in men. It will be up to 27%. And lung and bronchus cancers are number 2, that is up to 14%. Colon and rectal cancers are up to 8%, that's the number 3. And urinary bladder cancers are number 4 in men, that is up to 7%. Malignant melanomas of skin cancers are the 5th place, so they are up to 5%. And in the 6th place, lymphomas, and that is occupying the 5%. Another 5% is occupied by the kidney and renal pelvis cancers, that is the 7th place. And 8th place comes for oral cavity and pharynx, 4%. And 9th place comes for leukemia, that is 4%. And 10th place goes for liver and intrahepatic lesions, that is up to 3%. And other cancers occupy 18%. Whereas in females, the breast cancer occupies the topmost place, 29%. And lung and bronchioles and bronchus occupies 13%, colon and rectum occupies 8%, uterine corpus occupies 6%, thyroid 6%, lymphoma 5%, melanoma 4%, kidney and renal pelvis occupies 3%, pancreas 3%, leukemia 3%, other sides 20% for the females. So you have to remember, the treatment is not so cumbersome, but it is costly. We have to go on changing the drugs as per the international guidelines. For uterine cancers, we give hormone therapy with progestins and tamoxifen and aromatase inhibitors, or combination therapy with cisplatin, doxorubicin, docetaxel, and carboplatin. All these things will be taught to you in a later stage where you will be more knowledgeable, but I am giving just a gist of it. For ovarian cancer, we give combination therapy with paclitaxel and carboplatin. For cervical cancer, along with radiation, we give cisplatin or combination therapy of cisplatin, paclitaxel, and bevacizumab. And for breast cancer, we give adjuvant hormone therapy, and premenopausal group will give tamoxifen. For postmenopausal group, we will give aromatase inhibitors like anastrozole and letrozole and exemestane. Adjuvant chemotherapy will give doxorubicin, cyclophosphamide, and paclitaxel. And choriocarcinoma is another one, trophoblastic neoplasm. In low risk cases, we give methotrexate or actinomycin. And combination chemotherapy will be given for high risk groups with metastasis. Etoposide, methotrexate, actinomycin, cyclophosphamide, vincristine. All these drugs, the biochemical basis you should know. That is the importance of this class. At the end of the class, you should be able to tell the biochemical basis of every cancer drug. And this is my vision. And all of you should be benefited by this class. And testicular cancers, we go for combination chemotherapy with cisplatin, etoposide, or bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin. For renal cell cancer, sunitinib and temsirolimus, and bevacizumab or sorafenib. For bladder cancer, gemcitabine, cisplatin, or methotrexate, vinblastine, or doxorubicin. Very costly drugs. For bladder cancer, recently I lost one of my close friend who is religiously closer to me, and they spent huge amounts of money. They sold away, they disposed away costly fields, agricultural fields in their native place. So that is the state of affairs. But all said and done, nothing can be done to save his life beyond 1 year. That's all. In prostate cancer, most important for most of the men will get it towards the flag end of the 70, 80 years, hormone therapy. So luteinizing hormone releasing antagonist, leuprolide is the one. And thanks to the government decision, they are supplying it just for 2,000 rupees. In good olden days, when we were students, they used to charge 6,000 to 10,000 rupees. Now it is coming for just 2,000 rupees. So luteinizing hormone releasing agonist, leuprolide, and the goserelin. Goserelin is another very good drug. And and triptorelin is another good drug. And without anti-androgen drugs, we give flutamide and indicalutamide and nilutamide. For brain cancer, we have to definitely go for radiation and temozolomide and bevacizumab and procarbazamine and carbamazepine and lomustine are all the drugs for brain cancer. And neuroblastoma, cyclophosphamide, oxorubicin and cisplatin and etoposide will be given. For thyroid cancer, radioiodine 131 or sorafenib. For adrenal gland cancers, single agent mitotane. For gastric cancer, epirubicin, cisplatin, 5-fluorouracil. For pancreatic cancer, gemcitabine, cisplatin. For colon cancers, combination therapy, FOLFOX6 and fluorouracil, leucovorin, oxaliplatin. And rectal cancers, chemotherapy with radiotherapy and 5-fluorouracil. For anal cancers, radiation, fluorouracil and mitomycin. So all these drugs, list of drugs are there, but you should be able to know the biochemical basis. So we'll go for biochemical basis of cancer treatment. And this is the most favorite representation for cancer treatment, for cancer. And when we are learning about cancer treatment, one arrow should be pierced throughout the body of this crab. Then that is known as cancer treatment. So the spatial relationship, you know, between the two strands of DNA, double helical DNA. So while representing that, we draw the diagram of major groove, that is the wider groove, and minor groove, that is an arrow groove. So two grooves are there. So this is the basis. At the basic point of DNA structure, depicting major groove and minor groove, the wider groove and narrow groove, these grooves provide access for the binding of regulatory protein to their recognition sequences along the DNA chain. So that is the importance of these grooves. Why these grooves are there? Now we are starting thinking, and now we are trying to correlate why these grooves are provided in nature or provided by God Almighty. So these grooves provide access for the binding of regulatory protein to their recognition sequences along the DNA chain. So anti-cancer drug actinomycin, that's otherwise known as actinomycin D. This is the drug. Now we are knowing about the biochemical basis. So anti-cancer drug actinomycin exerts the cytotoxic effect by intercalating into the narrow groove of DNA double helix. And after intercalating in the narrow groove, what will happen? It interferes with the DNA and RNA synthesis, and thereby the cancer will be controlled by actinomycin D. An anti-cancer agent like camptothecin, it targets human type 1 topoisomerases. And you are knowing about the topoisomerase 1 and topoisomerase 2 in your genetic classes. So anti-cancer agents like camptothecins target human type 1 topoisomerases. And etoposide, just now I read about the use of cancer drug etoposide. In most of the cancers, we use it. So what it will do, how it will act as an anti-cancer drug. So it will target the human type 2 topoisomerase, and thereby it controls the cancer. And now you know one thing, bacterial DNA gyrase. It's a unique target of a group of antimicrobial agents, fluoroquinolenes. You know about ciprofloxacin. So these ciprofloxacin, norfloxacin, all these things are known as fluoroquinolenes. And these fluoroquinolenes sometimes are targeted by the DNA gyrase, bacterial DNA gyrase. And now coming to the most wonderful one, telomeres. So telomeres are viewed as mitotic clocks inside the cell. So their length is inversely related to the number of times the cell have divided. So the study of telomeres provides insight into the biology of normal aging, Diseases of premature aging, we call it as progeria. The scientific term given for premature aging is progeria. The child will be of small age, but his face appears as if he is a man of 40 years or 60 years or 70 years. Recently, all of you might have seen the picture. Who is that hero? Amitabh Bachchan. Amitabh Bachchan and Jaya Bhadari. These two fellows are our childhood heroines. So I think you have seen it. I have never seen that picture. My daughter used to tell about the example of progeria is Amitabh Bachchan's recent picture. Special care was taken to shape him into a very old man, small boy. So diseases of premature aging is known as progeria. And finally, these progeria cases also will be leading to the cancer. We can see these pictures. Hope you can suddenly remember that picture and that film. So examples of progeria. So the fellow will be appearing as if he is very much grown up. So they are living with progeria even up to whatever age that can be possible. They are living with progeria. They are laughing, reading, writing, composing good themes. All the things can be done. So the people will be living with progeria, but all said and done with the complications and developing cancers. There's not much of life for them, isn't it? We have to feel very much for them, isn't it? So wherever you see such a patient, you should be immediately trying to give something to him or donate something to him so that he'll be kept happy by walking with him and sharing the feelings, trying to keep him in good moods, all these things that anybody can do. For this, no money is needed. For this, no knowledge is needed. And you can find one gardener working with our Gayatri Hospital. He is an example of progeria. He will be appearing like a grown-up old man. He will be taking away all the weed plants in the garden. He will be continuously working. So you can just go and sit before him and see his face, and it will be very difficult for you to wait for him to stand up and walk. He will be always working in the garden. So it's an example of progeria. So by seeing all these pictures, and remember, and if you find such fellows while you are traveling by train or traveling in waiting in the bus stand for to catch your bus, you can find so many people, and the ultimate destiny of them is bus stops, bus stands, railway platforms. So remember, try to be conversant with the humanitarian aspect of caring for these people of progeria. If they happen to be born in the rich families, of course, their life is secure. But if they happen to, if their birth takes place in a common man and below average families or poor families, they will be only seen in the bus stops, railway platforms. So try to feel for them and try to keep them chivalrous and active and playful. And special institutions are there for these people of progeria. So nucleoside analogues have modified sugar portion. Nucleoside analogues are used as anti-cancer drugs. How they act as anti-cancer drugs, we are trying to know. This is the biochemical basis. So nucleoside analogues, anti-cancer drugs, have modified sugar portion, like removal of hydroxyl group from 3' carbon of deoxyribose ring in dideoxyinosine, DDI we call it as. So this is known as didanosine. So the drug name of the drug is didanosine. So this will prevent the further chain elongation in cancer group of cells. And conversion of deoxyribose to another sugar, like arabinose. So in the place of deoxyribose, another sugar will come and sit, that is arabinose. Immediately, this type of rearrangement will prevent further chain elongation. So these compounds will block the DNA replication and slow down the division of rapidly growing cells and even viruses also. And cytosine arabinose, cytarabine or ARA-C, it is used as an anti-cancer drug in the cancer chemotherapy. And adenine arabinoside, that is known as vidarabine. Just now I read the list of anti-cancer drugs. You are hearing the ARA-C, cytarabine, vidarabine, DDI, diadenosine. So all these things. So this is adenine arabinoside, vidarabine, ARA-A is an antiviral agent. So remember, the biochemical basis comes to your brain when you go to the higher years. So substitution of the sugar moiety is seen in Azidiathymidine, AZT or Zidovudine. So the Zidovudine can terminate DNA chain elongation, and this Zidovudine is utilized in the treatment. So all these drugs are generally supplied as nucleosides, and these nucleosides should be converted into nucleotides when it enters into the cell by action of cellular kinases. So the cellular kinases will take a lead to change the nucleosides into nucleotides. So in spite of elaborate proofreading system is there during DNA synthesis, wherever small repairs comes, the repair will be done promptly. So there is elaborate proofreading system existing in our cells during DNA synthesis. But errors like incorrect base pairing or insertion of one base to few other extra nucleotides, these things can occur in spite of elaborate proofreading system existing in our cells. So DNA is constantly being subjected to environmental insults. We are exposing ourselves to this UV light. We are sitting under the tube light and going on reading, and we are working in the hot sun. We are unnecessarily going and playing all the wonderful games in the hot sun, and we think that we are keeping ourselves active and we are trying to win medals for our institution, and we are trying to focus our institution into the daylight recognized by the inter-university play and other things. But we are at the same time exposed to the insult, bio-environmental insults. So all these things are, we always go regularly for playing and in hot sun, but sometimes we have to do it for 3 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. We are trying to cut short the time exposure by asking all the players to complete the match in 1 hour, 2 hours, like that. This is the self-limitation of exposure to the UV light. So the environmental insult should be, it is in our hands. We can cut short it. So damaging agents. The damaging agents are chemicals like nitrous acid. So nitrous acid is produced in enormous quantities when we are playing in the rain, and when lightnings are coming and the thunderbolts are heard, the nitrous acid will be produced in large amounts, and this nitrous acid deaminates the bases, and thereby cancers will come. That's why people will not allow the children to play in the rain when there are thunders and lightnings. And especially in our households, there is a custom: no girl is allowed to go and play in the thundering storm or rain. The male children, they will not hear the command of the parents, so they run out of the house and play. They will ask, mother will ask, you are a good boy, you should not go and play like that. No, I am not a good boy, I am a bad boy. They will loudly tell with courage that I am a bad boy, I will go and play. Okay, go and play whatever you do. But the girls are very obedient. They don't unnecessarily cross the order of the mummy. So they will be obedient and stay back, and they will be prevented by getting cancer. So how the nitrous acid in rainwater will do? It will deaminate the bases and cause cancer. And radiation, non-ionizing ultraviolet radiations can fuse two pyrimidines adjacent to each other in the DNA. High energy ionizing radiations can cause double strand breaks in the DNA. So the bases are altered or lost spontaneously, even though we don't get exposed to nitrous acid, even though we don't get exposed to UV radiations, even though we don't get exposed to high energy ionizing radiations, there is spontaneous base loss from mammalian DNA at the rate of many thousands per cell per day. This is an exclamation, isn't it? So all these things should be going on. If this damage is not repaired, mutations is introduced. And what will happen when once mutation is introduced into a cell, that will lead to loss of control or the proliferation of the mutated cell. And this mutated cell will proliferate, and that will lead to a big cancer mass. So remember, all these things are the biochemical basis. In future, when you become an oncologist, you should remember these basic things. And if you are able to tell these few things with an intermediate basis of education, if the patient comes, you should be able to tell them, and you should be able to influence their brains, impress upon their brains how we are going to treat them. So then they will be really happy. We should not become mute or deaf. And the patient is sitting in front of you, you should be able to tell a few points the patient can understand. So you should ask them, enough. You have enough of the BDNA, ZDNA, and all these DNA structures in your intermediate, isn't it? Even at the stage of 10th standard, you are conversant about the structure. So remember, nitrous acid, non-ionizing UV radiations, and ionizing radiations. So all these things will cause problems. And whenever the cell with mutations leads to the control of the proliferation of mutated cell, and that will lead to cancer. So luckily, all of our cells are remarkably efficient in repairing the damage done to the DNA. We just will not just allow it with open eyes. Ala chustu anni jariponiవ్వడం అన్నది మన cell facilitate చేయదు. So most of our cells are remarkably efficient at repairing the damage done to the DNA in the beginning itself. So repair system involves recognition of the damage, that is lesion on the DNA. That is the first one. Recognize చేయాలి, ఇక్కడ డ్యామేజ్ జరిగింది అని. Then what should be done after recognizing? Removal or excision of the damage, and ultimately replacement or filling the gap left by the excision. So for this, a sister strand will be utilized as a template for DNA synthesis, and that small bit will be ligated to the normal one. So what will happen? This can affect 1 to 10s of the nucleotides, and repair synthesis of DNA can occur outside the S phase of the cell cycle. So while trying to understand the cell cycle, S phase is there, And this S phase of the cell cycle, outside the S phase of the cell cycle, all the repair synthesis of DNA will take place. So mismatch repair, MMR, we call it as MMR. All these things are not just the shortcuts. These are the approved shortcuts in the oncology. So mismatch repair, MMR. Sometimes replication errors escape the proofreading activity during DNA synthesis. So this causes mismatch of one to several bases. So, so many bases in the DNA will be mismatched. So MMR is mediated by a group of homologous proteins. They are known as mute proteins, mutation. So the mutation will be corrected by these mute proteins in the cell. So this is the name. Under this heading, you should be trying to remember this. So MMR occurs within minutes of replication and reduces the error rate of replication from, suppose if the error is 1 in 10 to the power of 7, it will be reduced to 1 in 10 to the power of 9. It will be diluted, isn't it? Remember, 1 in 10 to the power of 7 will be reduced to 1 in 10 to the power of 7. It is so early, so fast. So the nucleotides will be corrected. Mutation to the proteins involved in MMR is associated with hereditary non-polyposis colorectal cancer, that is abbreviated by standard abbreviation HNPCC, and this is known as Lynch syndrome. So this Lynch syndrome should be can be understood if you know about the mutations to the proteins involved in MMR is associated with hereditary non-polyposis colorectal cancer, HNPCC, and that is known as Lynch syndrome. HNPCC confers an increased risk for developing colon cancers. So up to 5% of the colon cancers are manifested due to this, as well as other cancers also will be manifested if we have this HNPCC. And you know about pyrimidine dimers in the first instance. They can be formed in the skin cells of humans when exposed to the unfiltered sunlight, having a lot of UV radiation. Nowadays, while going for cataract operation, when they will be asking, are you working in the hot daylight or open daylight? Yes. Then they will be giving a special filter. The foldable lens will be introduced while we remove the cortical cataract or nuclear cataract. And in the place of the lens, they will introduce a foldable lens that's called as orange lens. And what this orange lens does is, it will filter all the UV light, all the blue light, and thereby the retina will be prevented from getting unnecessarily damaged by this UV light. So remember, we are not supposed to daringly face the UV light with our eyes. So people will be challenged. We don't get anything. We will directly watch the complete Surya Grahanam. So all these things are, you should tell what we have to call them. So UV light should not directly enter into our eyes, and that will be more intense during this Surya Grahanam. So we are forbidden to do that. You know, people will be arguing. So many arguments are there for so many types of people. We are not going to touch their feelings. So the pyrimidine dimers can be formed in the skin cells of the humans when exposed to unfiltered sunlight, having a lot of UV radiation in the sunlight. This is the picture of colorectal cancer. So my dear children, this is the place where the tumor develops in the descending colon and colorectal cancers. So these are quite unhappy things, and that will be faced by the people at the flag end of their career beyond 70 years. So if they are having good amount of money in reserve, they can go for hemicolectomy in Asian Institute of Gastroenterology in Hyderabad, and they should spend around 12 lakhs, and they should stay in the hospital for nearly 15 days to 2 months. So all this, who will stay with the old man in the hospital? Who will take care of the old man on the bed in the hospital? And all the people by that time, their children and grandchildren, and they'll be busy with their own works. So they cannot just stop their works and stay in the hospital along with the old man, who is anyhow not going to live beyond 2 years. And even within 1 year itself, they will be again having the relapse. So who will try to stay with the man? So these are the things, lesions. All these lesions are quite dangerous. And all these things will be coming to our observation only in the flag end of the career. And we should have a lot of amount of money in our hands. And we should have dedicated batch of 4 people. Anduke kada manalu cheptaru, try to get 4 friends who will be continuously hoofing together to you throughout the life. Naluguru friends kavali manaki. And naluguru friends manallo moyadaniki ani antaru. Ippudu moyadaniki vedda very avakkarledu. And all the 4 people should be with you when you are in the deathbed or in the sick bed at least. So remember, colorectal cancers, these are the problematic things. In rare genetic disease, I told you about the exposure to UV light, the skin cancers, xeroderma pigmentosum, that's abbreviated popularly as XP. So in the rare genetic disease, xeroderma pigmentosum, not all the people exposed to the sunlight will get it. Only in the people who are having a rare genetic disease, xeroderma pigmentosum,